And lastly, within the CSU issues is page 41 regarding deferred maintenance.
Okay. The Senate version, we're moving, but it's 24. Senate version, move Senate
Correct. The
version.
difference between the houses was exactly $1 million.
Right.
So the motion
Move the Senate version.
is one-time augmentation of 24 million for CSU to address deferred maintenance needs. 3-0
3-0.
and 3-0.
On this item, we do appreciate that there are significant deferred maintenance needs at CSU and at many of our state assets, but our concern is I believe that the innovation awards in our our May revision proposal were redirected to this funding, and we think the innovation awards were a big success and demonstrating and incenting new and different innovations at the CSU and community colleges, and we would like to continue that proposal in the budget year.
Thank you, Ms. Fosler. Okay, so 3-0, 3-0. So moving on to page 42.
State library.
We have a compromise on page 42 for local library funding. And the compromise provides $4 million for the California Library Services Act and $4 million one-time funds for broadband equipment grants, which would augment the $1.5 million that the governor had proposed.
Mr. Chairman, would you allow me to move that one?
Yes.
Please.
I know this is a particular issue to you, Senator, and I'd be happy to let you. So we do have a motion from Senator Nielsen for this compromise. And the vote is 3-0, 3-0. So we have a number of items under the California Student Aid Commission. If you could, help us with all of these compromises, page 43 through 47.
Sure. So there's 5 items here. The first one on page 43 pertains to the Cal Grant Competitive Grant Program. The compromise is to provide $39 million, which would equate to 16,250 new competitive Cal Grant awards. The second issue on page 44 is regarding the Cal Grant B Access Award, and the compromise is to provide $25 million to increase the award amount by $148 million. $148 per award. The third item is on page 45, and it relates to the middle class scholarship. The compromise is to adopt a time limit for participation that would start in 16-17, and it would be either 4 or 5 years, depending on the program the student's enrolled in. It would adopt an asset ceiling of $150,000 starting in 15-16. It also includes tying income and asset ceilings to the consumer price index, and it also includes trailer bill language to modify the statutory appropriations for the program to $82 million in 15-16, $116 million in 16-17, and $159 million in 17-18.
And on this middle class scholarship trailer bill, we're really aligning it with the time limits and asset ceilings of the Cal Grant program.
The time limits are aligned with the Cal Grant program. The asset ceiling is the
asset, was it 70?
For Cal Grants?
67, 67,
yeah.
right.
So it's a little higher.
But same
Twice as
concept.
much. Same concept, yeah.
I want to thank both the President Pro Tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the Assembly for working together to reach this point of compromise, because where we started was significantly different. And I think we can agree that these are monies that will further the goal of it, of the original middle-class scholarship, but recognizing that by setting a timeline and also an assets ceiling, we can better repurpose this and make these dollars go further for those it was originally intended for. So 46 is the
And-
assumption program of loans.
Right. The compromise for page 46 is to provide $200,000 to CSU campus financial aid offices or teacher certification programs to increase awareness of federal teacher loan repayment programs. And the last one on page 47 relates to the college access tax credit trailer bill. And here it's the Senate version, which would continuously appropriate the funds and extend the program by 1 year.
All right. Thank you, sir. So we'll take each of these page by page. 43 is described as the competitive Cal Grant, $39 million plus trailer bill language, and that would be 3-0. 3-0. Thank you, Senator Lara, for the motion on that.
Move item 44.
We have a motion by Assemblywoman Weber for page 44. That's the Cal Grant B Access Awards as described. 3-0. 3-0.
Item 45, Mr. Chair, will move the compromise.
Thank you. Motion for the compromise on page 45 for the middle class scholarship. That will be 3-0. 3-0. Page 46 is the assumption program of loans,
Move the compromise.
moved by Senator Lara. 3-0. Okay, 2-0. And the last item is page 47, the college access tax credit trailer bill language. Moved by Assemblywoman Weber. And the vote is 3-0. 3-0. All right.
I would just note that we're not supportive of this overall augmentation package for Cal Grants, just because we do not want to return to the boom and bust cycles of the past. But we do think that the two changes to the middle class scholarship program make a lot of sense.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Bosler. Okay, moving on. Our K through 12 Prop 98 package, pages 1 through 20. And we're going to ask for some assistance from the LAO to walk us through all this.
Good evening, Carolyn Chu from the Legislative Analyst's Office. Page 1 of the agenda covers the early education and child care issues before you. I believe you also have the conference compromise before you. The conference compromise would provide $392 million in the budget year in a combination of increases in slots and increases in reimbursement rates. The package includes an increase of 5,000 full-day state preschool slots, an additional 10,000 part-day state preschool slots, and an additional 12,000 alternative payment program slots, which are the voucher slots. In addition, the package makes a number of rate updates. These rate updates include a 7.5% increase to the standard reimbursement rate, an additional 10% increase to the part-day state preschool rate, increasing the regional market rate to the 70th percentile of the 2014 survey, and increasing the license exempt rate from 60% of the family child care home rate to 70% of that rate. There are a few additional changes included in the package. The first is to increase the eligibility threshold for the subsidized child care programs from 70% of state median income as measured in 2007 to 80% of state median income using the most recent income data. In addition, the package provides an ongoing $25 million for a quality rating and improvement system for infants and toddlers, as well as funding for a consumer education database. There are also some associated trailer bill language that would implement these augmentations.
So clearly a compromise package, significantly different from what we had as houses passed, and working with the governor, recognizing, but I do just want to underscore a few things, colleagues, that in this compromise early care and education package, and Mr. you correct me if I'm off here, but will be $325 million above the May revision.
$392
$92.
$90 above the May revision.
And am I close to correct here, 27,000 additional slots?
That is correct, yes, 27,000.
And about 159 million for additional rates.
A total in the budget year of $225 million in additional rate increases.
Okay. So
We would have major concerns with this package just because of the overall cost of it. The costs here that are presented before you are much lower than the ongoing costs. The ongoing costs of this package are upwards of over $500 million, including a significant portion of that on the non-98 side. Given the tight fiscal balance that we are maintaining, even under the May revisions estimates of expenditures, there's just not enough room, given our current tax base, to support this kind of augmentation ongoing.
thank you, Ms. Bosler. We have really focused, and I want to make the point that the Legislative Women's Caucus has prioritized this package among all others for good reason. That first and foremost, we know that those who would want to get back into the workforce cannot, especially single-parent families, without the assistance of child care. Additionally, we know that every study, every report that we've seen clearly indicates that children who benefit from early care and education are better prepared to start kindergarten, better prepared for first grade, that we can address the achievement gap before it starts. by investing early, this will have serious and positive impact, only on the lives of these children, these families, but also for the greater community, because we'll have higher graduation rates from high school as a result of this early investment. And we know that a child without a high school diploma has a 7 times greater likelihood, of finding his or her way into our criminal justice system. So this early investment pays significant dividends. And I can strongly support the compromise because of the details in it with regard to this additional investment, though it's not as we had originally proposed with regard to Prop 98. Excuse me, no, I'm okay. But one way or the other, we have to get there. And so this is a great step forward. Assemblywoman Weber.
Right, I want to also echo my continuing support for the early education packet. Clearly, it's not the original packet that either one of the houses put together, but we know the constraints we had given negotiations that existed. Yes, it's more general fund than probably some of us had wanted, but given the fact that the resistance of putting it in 98 was pretty strong from the governor's side, we were limited in what we could put into 98. Yet at the same time, the Women's Caucus, and I don't just want to say the Women's Caucus because then it makes it sound like this is just a women's issue. I think all of the caucuses, as well as the members of the Assembly, have been very strong about the question of child care and the role child care plays in addressing a tremendous number of the issues that we face in California. We have a strong effort to close the achievement gap, and we know we've put lots of money into local control funding formulas to close the achievement gap. But we know that that effort will probably be hindered if we don't do a better job in providing young people, particularly in preschool, with the kind of foundation that allows them to go on to kindergarten and first grade. We know that kids who are in preschool are more likely to be on task by third grade, more likely to do well in school, and more likely to graduate. They're also less likely to go to prison. So when we start talking about reducing our prison population, not by artificial means, but by natural means of people basically living better lives and not choosing crime as an option or not getting caught up in it, this is a good way to do it. I think our out years is close to the Women's Caucus projection. The Women's Caucus, based on their research, talked about $600 million investment in child care. This gets us to 527, which is 76 million below the women's projection, but it's a pretty good one. I also like the fact that this is not just about slots, because we've done that before, and that's not been very effective, because unless we increase the rate in terms of what we're charging for particularly for child care and preschool, people are not taking us up on it. So that's a real challenge that's there. Also found in this package is the whole issue of increased eligibility. One of the things I've found in my own staffing and others is that child care, one, is very expensive, and many of the people even who work in this building can't afford adequate child care, can't afford preschool. Preschool is almost $1,000 a month. And if you're only making $40,000, $50,000 a month, to ask to have a $12,000 investment in preschool, once again, takes out many of our families who are working, hard-working families, can't afford adequate preschool. So this does rebench that eligibility, so we're going to find more and more families who are making the middle-class families who now can afford to go to preschool. So I think the Women's Caucus has done a good job in striking that balance. This speaks about being visionaries in terms of what we expect California to look like. And if we expect California to have an educated population, we've invested in the University of California, we invested in the CSU, we invested in K-12, we have to invest in 0 to 5. I mean, that is a part of the continuum. Anything less than that, once again, gives us a system that limps along, hoping and praying for better conditions and outcomes when we've pretty much hindered those outcomes because we haven't done the kind of job that's essential. So I think we have to move forward with it. I'm pleased with the compromise that's there. I know the various entities have worked very hard on this, and so this looks like probably the best we're going to get to reach all the needs we have that we've identified in the area of child care and preschool.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Senator Laura, and then Senator Nielsen. Okay, Senator Nielsen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And You know, I find sympathy with what you say, Mr. Chairman, and your co-chairman, Assemblymember Weber. I think that we all have great sympathy for childcare. I surely do myself. I remember the night when the GAIN program was in this very room, and there was a dispute in child care capital outlay between myself, the Senate Republican leader, and the Assembly Republican leader, and the whole thing almost blew up over my figuring that it was an $18 million deal, and he thought it was $9. So there's a lot of sympathy, and there's no question the value and the need. I think the only question and value here that we have to ask is really how much. How much at this time can we afford? And I find myself yet again agreeing with the governor. And I need to ask a couple of questions. The language that we're going to have here, does it have anything in it related to numbers of people? Assemblymember Weber talked about the ratios and such roughly. Are we talking about a certain ratio that will be required of providers per students or preschool students?
Those exist under current regulations for the state preschool program regarding how many teachers there must be per student. So there must be 1 teacher per 24 students in a preschool program plus 2 assistant teachers in the classroom.
Have you reviewed any of the language yourself?
Those regulations already exist in state regulations regarding the state preschool program. The package
No,
before.
I understand that, but I guess we don't have any language yet that relates to this per the budget trailer bill. Is that correct? There's no language yet. We know what we're talking about, but we don't have the specifics. Is that correct?
My understanding is that in order to increase the reimbursement rates and things like that, there needs to be changes in the trailer bill. I believe that that's being drafted, but I have not yet seen it. But
Are there any,
these are technical
to your
adjustments.
knowledge or anyone's knowledge, any requirements related to those who provide the child care? For example, family members.
Family members who provide subsidized child care through the license exempt program must go through a background check and self-certify that they've met basic health and safety standards in the environment that the child will be cared for in.
And I assume anyone, though, not just.
That's correct.
Anyone
Any
has to.
provider must go through that process. A provider who is licensed must also meet additional requirements in order to provide subsidized care.
And how now are the pay scales set for those individuals who do the providing? Who sets the pay scale?
The individual companies or individual childcare homes, they're all private organizations for the most part. There are some school districts and county offices of education that do provide some of these programs, particularly the state preschool program. So those are set and by the school district, but otherwise these are private business entities that set their wages. The state simply pays a per child rate, and that is not necessarily corresponding to the
It's not a cap
wages.
or a floor or anything.
Under the regional market rate, it's a cap on the voucher. The regional market rate reflects the maximum value of the voucher.
Now, is there any assumption that these workers would be under union contracts, or do we know at this point?
Both houses adopted language that would allow family child care home workers to collectively bargain with the state.
But it allows them by choice, and they go before PERB to make that determination and
Correct,
apply?
yes.
Yeah, and then if that be the case, then they would be required to pay fair share fees correctly.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the last part of your question? I
If
couldn't
they
hear it.
didn't want to be
Oh, I believe so,
represented
yes.
other than for, you know, the main, the core benefits, they have to pay for that, the representation, but the whole program that the union provides, they don't have to. That's a fair share, that's what it means.
Yes, that's my understanding.
No, that's,
Thank you, Senator. Any comments, other comments on the?
Yeah, just have a few other
Yes, go right ahead.
comments. Just wanted to give some perspective on the childcare budget over the last 2 years, because over the last year and what's proposed in the governor's budget, there has been an augmentation of $660 million total funds, $412 million general fund, restoring childcare slots and some childcare rates above where we have been since the recession. Those are significant augmentations that were approved and are maintained in the May revision. So there has been significant restorations in this area. Also related to the collective bargaining, this is not a policy that we support at this time. So.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Bosler. Senator Laura.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to add to the remarks of the significance of what we're voting on today. And again, kudos to the Women's Caucus and to the members on both houses who, I think with this vote, prioritize working families, who, you know, and all, with all due respect, don't need our sympathy. What they need is the opportunity to survive in a system that is currently out of touch with needs of working families. I think our role here, and I think our role here in the Budget Committee or the Conference Committee is to prioritize those working families, whether it's the middle class, two-parent family, a single parent, or non-traditional families that currently are struggling to survive. And I think today's vote does just that, and it's our time to act now. We can't have it both ways. We can't ask for families to deliver without having the system in place to actually take care of our most vulnerable, which are our children, especially our poor children that already start with an unequal playing field. And so I just want to, again, congratulate both houses on prioritizing such an important issue for working Californians and California families.
Thank you, Senator Laura. I'll take that as a motion for the package.
Yes.
Assemblyman Blue.
I wonder if I could ask LAO what the
course.
annualized amount is for this item?
Excuse me, the annualized cost for the package would be $563 million in 2016-17.
Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman. We do have a motion for the package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
If you could just answer one more question, what would the cost be in future years?
So there's no additional growth due to the package's augmentations in future years aside typical growth in CalWORK's caseload and statutory adjustments for increases in the population and cost of living. So as the programs currently exist, those additional costs will already be incurred. This package does not affect those in any way. So the budget year plus one costs are as far as this package affects the bottom line.
Ms. Bosler? No.
I was just going to clarify that the CalWORKs stages 1 and 2 are entitlements. They're funded as such, and so there's automatic increases based on a caseload. Also, this is all ongoing, though, just to clarify what Carolyn was saying, Ms. Chu was saying about the package. This is ongoing additional expenditures of $563 million.
All right. So the vote on the Senate side is 2-1 and 2-1.